Hello everybody, welcome to MojoTalks, and this is WatchClub, the show where we break down the biggest shows on television. And today we are going to break down Westworld. I'm your host Matt, and we have special panelist again today, Rebecca. Phoebe's not in, so we go to the best voice in WatchMojo.
Ooh,
how's it going?
That's a hot take.
No, you're the veteran. Let's
right,
just
fine,
keep it at that. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So as I mentioned, today we're going to talk about Westworld Season 2, Episode 7, titled Les Écorchés.
Les Écorchés.
French. Yes.
Hey, can you explain the title before we get into things?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it means it's a sculpture of a human being without its skin. So this episode was written by Jordan Goldberg and Ron Fitzgerald and directed by Nicole Castle. So let's talk about some of our favorite moments. What I loved right off the bat, the cold open was really cool.
I figured you'd have some skeletons in your closet, Bernard. I didn't think they'd be your own.
Guns at everyone's heads. You think Bernard's in trouble. And then they find the secret room where they go in, and then they find a whole host of Bernards, literally a whole host of Bernards. I thought that was pretty crazy. Sets up the episode excellently. And I just loved the quote where she's like, I figured you'd have some skeletons in your closet, Bernard, but I didn't think they'd be your own. I thought that was really cool. So that just kicked it off on a great note.
Yes, in a very, what does it all mean?
Yes, and then it becomes even more, what does it all mean? Because, you know, when there's Bernard involved, there's usually Ford involved.
Dun, dun, dun.
And Sir Anthony Hopkins made his comeback.
Thank God.
I think everyone was very
Thank
happy
God,
to see that.
appropriately. Wink, wink, I'll get there.
Oh, yes, you will get there. So how about I give you the floor for maybe some of your favorite moments or things you may have picked up on. We were talking backstage and you have some bombshell.
I don't know if they're bombshells.
No, but they're good notes, if you will.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll start by saying this.
Mm-hmm.
The show has a tendency to be like, okay, here, this is what's happening, and spoon feed you. And then me, I really don't understand what's happening even after they explain.
You're like, thank you for trying to spoon feed, but this is getting really confusing now.
So I have no idea what's going on. Spoiler alert. But anyway, first of all, I really like the scene like right near the beginning where all the hosts are walking into the mesa, led by Dolores, and it's like dark and it looks like, anyway, that was just a really cool scene, which has nothing to do with what I'm going to be talking about.
But it's still a cool scene, clearly on a mission, just trudging through the mesa. Yeah, very cool.
So the last time I was on, I think I said that it'd be really boring if the consciousness marble, I don't know what they're really called, was Ford. So, oh well.
Womp womp, yeah. It was totally Ford.
Yeah, but of course, I don't write for HBO. I can't, I thought it would be boring, but they'll make it not boring. Don't worry about it. Anyway. So, as we know, when Bernard was in the cradle, he met up with Ford, and Ford ended up uploading his own consciousness into Bernard so that he can go out into the real world.
Very dark and evil almost.
Yeah. It's like, okay, and this guy has a long game, okay? Like, that's probably why he made Bernard chain Elsie up last season so that he could have someone to help him with this whole thing. Yeah,
to get the gears in
because
motion.
You need some tech analyst to get him connected to the cradle. Blah, blah, blah. I don't even know. And how did they get? He also did all that weird like virus stuff in the cradle to get them there because they're like, what's going on? And
yeah, exactly. When all the storylines were glitching and this and that was his idea.
And it was all to get. And this is what he's doing with everybody. He's a puppet master. He gets everybody to do. Because he knows how they'll react if he does something, so he does something, and then. Anyway, so now Bernard is like dual personalities, him and Ford.
Like a ghost stuck in his brain, which is incredibly creepy.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah.
And they even have visuals that kind of support.
Well, yeah, there's that scene at the end when he's mowing down those Delos employees.
Which I'm pretty sure was everyone's favorite scene.
It was crazy good.
Yeah. And then, so when Ford was done uploading himself into Bernard, he's like, I'm going to let the cradle get blown up, and we'll get back to that scene later.
That was a very important scene, yeah.
Welcome to Westworld.
I think this is I'm probably at least an episode late on this, but is it possible there's more than one active Bernard in this timeline?
Well, see, I think that's a big point of discussion for a lot of Westworld fans, which even, that question was raised even more intensely when we find that room with all the different Bernard hosts.
Because why else would you need many Bernards? Because you can just fix robots.
Yeah.
So anyway. Or hosts. Do people hate it when you call them robots?
I mean, they're robots. If people have an issue with it,
Yeah.
I mean, they're hosts, but they're also robots, guys. Come on.
Okay, so the hosts now have free will.
Yes.
Ish. But
A lot of
like
them
I
do.
said,
Yeah.
but Ford can still predict what they're going to do, like I said. So he still has control, although it kind of depends on how, we're getting into like very existential
Yes.
discussions, like, because it's basically the God-human relationship. Like, is a choice if it's preordained, but is it necessarily preordained because someone knows you'll do that, but they don't force you to do that? Anyway.
These are all questions that Ford definitely brings up in
I
his
know,
whole
and I feel like
spiel.
I talked about this in like a philosophy class or something. Anyway, okay, so Ford is God. This is kind of
There's
like
a definite
confirmed.
huge God complex with Ford, 100%.
Yeah. So now he's eternal. He created life. He's basically omniscient, or is omniscient. He knows what his creations will do, but allows them the free will to make the choice themselves. And then he'll grab a gun and shoot everybody up.
That does seem like it's gonna happen. Yeah.
I know. And then even Dolores in season 2, episode 2 said, "We've toiled in God's service long enough, so I killed him," and she killed Ford.
Yeah.
So, and in killing him, truly made him God.
Oh,
Dun,
look
dun,
at that.
dun.
Comes full circle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said the hosts could determine their own fates. You gave us free will.
I did, but you won't have any use for it. Unless I take it back.
So you had touched upon it briefly just before, and it was the scene with Angela in the cradle. And a lot of people online did not seem to like that scene whatsoever. I was a little annoyed with it too, but the more I
Yeah,
thought
I feel
about
like it's
it,
a male-female problem.
it might be a little bit. At first, I was, like I said, I was like, this is terrible. This guy's a trained assassin or soldier. He just saw her kill all of his comrades, and he's just gonna let himself be seduced. And I was like, that's ridiculous. But then I was thinking, I'll let you fill this in. Yeah.
The speech she's giving is, here's exactly why my seduction of you is going to work.
Yeah.
Because that is what I was designed for.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't work, I was designed poorly, and she was not designed poorly,
So
obviously.
So the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? It might be a little lame, but it totally makes sense with that explanation. So I think I'll give it a pass. But again, a lot of people online
Yeah, people
did
were mad.
have some issues with that. Yeah.
Not just pretty. Perfect. Just as you built me to be.
I thought it was also interesting. There was the scene when Bernard was, he's been captured at this point, and he's being tortured, and they're like, what's going on with him? Oh, this is his version of waterboarding.
Virtual run
And I was like,
waterboarding.
oh my God, you're really doing that intense of torture on this guy? And then it switches to a scene of the guy on the tablet like this. And then if you look closely, I don't know if some of the audience caught this, but in the section, there's a little section on the tablet where it had a bunch of other torture methods on it. So like, Geneva Convention be damned, because they
Well,
did
they're
not
robots,
care.
though.
Yeah, but still, it's, they're programmed to feel pain, right? I mean, that's the reason
Pain's
why
just
those
a program.
torture. So it was interesting. There was some, there was kneecapping. Yeah, kneecapping's terrible. There was scalping, which we've seen on Westworld before, thanks to Ghost Nation. And one that really bugged me was denailing.
Ooh.
Denailing. So I don't know if the audience caught on to that, but if you want to see all the sick, twisted ways Delos wants to torture their robots, it's on that tablet, so you can check that out.
Yeah, but at this point, he's Ford, eh?
Sorry?
When he's being tortured, at that point, he's
Yeah.
Ford. So he didn't need to be responding to the kind of analysis, like the commands.
Yeah.
So I think he's just playing with them.
That's
anyway.
interesting too, because when he gives up the location of Abernathy later in the episode, you know, it was like, oh, where's Abernathy? Where's the key? Oh, he's in sector whatever it is. I was just thinking, if Ford's in there, why would he just willingly give it up? Did he perhaps
He had
send them on a wild goose chase? Does he want them to find it for a particular reason? I just thought that was very interesting. Yeah.
Well, something I noticed that I think might have implications, but I don't know because I don't get this show. But
You get it, but it can be confusing. I will. Yeah.
When Bernard was in the cradle and he found Ford, Clementine was the, I don't know, second hooker in command at the bar.
At the Mariposa,
because, which is weird because she wasn't the second in command last time we saw that place kind of up and running.
Okay.
They had decommissioned her already. So
Yeah.
I'm like, is this like an old backup or something? Like, What I'm trying to figure out is what the cradle exactly is and where Ford had put himself. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's,
because it is basically a giant server of past storylines. Oh, but it's also interesting you mentioned that because Maeve is also there, and she's like, oh, I like that scene when she was like, oh, honey, you should know the difference between like a looker or whatever. It's like, he's not here for the merchandise. It's like, oh, interesting.
I don't think God rested on the seventh day, Bernard. I think he reveled in his creation.
So Dolores knew the key was inside Abernathy's head, her father's head. She has a great understanding of the park, the people in the park, the hosts, the way the whole game works. And my prediction now kind of blends in with the prediction I had previously. So my previous prediction was that this secret lab was actually the Valley Beyond, and that this lab gathered all of this DNA on their hosts. We now know that it's maybe not DNA, but the whole gist of the episode, right, was that Westworld is not for people to go and murder people and have sex with robots. It was part of a much grander scheme. It was to collect data from their guests so that they can use that data to basically create eternal life for these guests. So my theory is that Dolores knows that this lab exists, that she's going to find it and use all of this data of people for herself and the other people in her crew that deserve to make it to the Great Valley Beyond, and that they're going to use that data to insert themselves into the real world, I should say, as these real life people.
yeah, I'm kind of wondering if they're already replicas of real people.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
We'd have to ask Lee, but that would be interesting. This is a whole other discussion, but if they do end up in the real world and they do see these people, crazy.
Yes.
So
I
that's
think that
pretty
could be
interesting.
good. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a surefire prediction,
No, I know.
but it could happen.
I know.
It could happen.
Do you mind?
Yeah.
I want to end on a quote that I really like from this episode.
Of course, yeah.
Okay. This was Ford, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
When the Great Library burned, the first 10,000 years of stories were reduced to ash. But those stories never really perished. They became a new story, the story of the fire itself, of man's urge to take a thing of beauty and strike the match.
Oh, that was a good quote.
Yeah.
And it was very important to the whole plot of that episode. It was actually the tagline, I think,
Yeah.
too, that like strike the match part.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So that's as good of a note to end as any. So guys, thank you so much for watching. And if you like this show, be sure to tune back on Monday for more because we always recap Westworld on that day. And if you like more TV and movie news, be sure to subscribe to MojoTalks for more. I am your host, Matt. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.